Now let's turn our attention to the functionality in C# of generics. Now this is going to be a two-part video, and possibly even three, because we're going to do a lot of coding here. But we're going to talk about generics. Now what exactly are generics? Now these things look a little strange the first time you see them, but you're going to like them if you're not familiar with them. Generics provides the ability to treat types themselves as parameters. What that means in English is we can create classes that defer the specification of the data type until that class is actually declared and instantiated by client code. So we don't have to create a class based on a certain type. Now generics can also be used with methods, interfaces, events, and delegates. And what we're going to use generic types for, and you're going to see in the example, to maximize code reuse, for type safety, and especially for performance. Now the best way to understand these things is to see them, so let's jump out into some code and do just that. Now in Visual Studio 2012, I've created a Windows Forms application called Generics Example. You'll see a copy of Generics Example in your Work Files folder. So I will start this project up. It'll set up my solution and my project. Now I am going to create a form and drop two buttons on there. All right. And on this form, these two buttons are going to be there. One is going to be for generics and non-generics. So let's go out there and we'll put two buttons. And I'll just double click button twice, and there's our two buttons. Okay. And we're just going to go quickly and change the properties on these. And on button 1, we'll call this non-ng for non-generics. And then on button 2, we will do generics. Okay. We'll just put a G there for generics. Now, what's going to happen with generics is we're going to create classes or collection classes that hold objects for us. All right. And then we're going to look at the differences between a non-generic collection class and a generic collection class. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is go create a class, right? So let's go to Solution Explorer and get it to wake up there. Right click on our project name. Let's add a class, and we will call this class ng class. Okay. And let me just take this out. ng class.cs. And we're going to make this a collection class. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a collection of objects called items and set it equal to new objects, and we'll limit it to 50 items. And then we'll set up an integer for the number of items, and we'll start that off at 0. Let me get this S off of here. And then let's just create a method so that we can add objects to our collection. Okay, so we'll do a public void add object item. And then I'm just going to paste this in, because by the time I copy this, by the time I type this, some of you guys will have grown old and moved to a new career and all sorts of things. Okay, so notice we're going to say if number of items plus 1 is less than 50, that's our limit. Then we're going to go through and set them based on the index value equal to item. Then we're going to increment this, and so we can just go through them and we can add them and increment the index number each time. Okay, and so that's pretty straightforward. You can kind of play with that and see that. Then we want to create a little method down here so that we can get an item out of our collection. And so I'll just do this, public object is what we'll return, and this int n, and then we will get return items whatever n was when it was passed in, and then we will close that out. Okay, pretty straightforward there. All right, so if any of that's new to you, just kind of go over it, play with it, and see what's happening there. Okay, now let's go to our Forms 1 design, and we will double click on our non-generics button, and we want to go write some code to work with that non-generic collection class. Now, keep in mind this non-generic class is creating a collection of objects, okay? And so we're going to create an instance of our ng class, right? ng, and set it equal to new instance of ng class. And then let's just add some things to it, okay? ng dot, we'll call our add method, and we'll pass 1. We'll call ng dot add, and we'll pass 23. And then we'll call ng dot add, and we'll pass 45. Okay? Pretty straightforward, right? Now, to get something out of that, we're going to create a string called, well, actually, let's do an integer, okay? We'll do an integer called get int, and we'll set that equal to ng1. And notice we immediately get a squiggly, okay? Why? Because we're trying to convert an object to an integer, and so we're going to have to cast something here. So that's one of the problems when we've typed our collection as objects and we try to put integers in and get them back out. We're going to have to do a cast. Join me in part 2 and we'll continue this and we'll get a little deeper with it.